Okay, I'm back with yet another Pauper deck tech. Today it's a pretty janky, memey combo deck that's been fun to work on but still needs a lot of work. I thought I would just show it to you, and hopefully if you have any suggestions or ideas to make it better, please let me know in the comments. So basically this is a version of the Balustrade Spy combo. So there have been a couple of decks that have appeared using this card with only one land in the deck. So Balustrade Spy, it's 4 mana for a 2/3 with flying, but it says when it enters the battlefield, target player reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land, then puts all the cards revealed this way into their graveyard. So how this deck works is, if you play Balustrade Spy while you have no lands in your library, then it will dump your entire library straight into your graveyard, and then you can do some shenanigans from there. So the versions I've seen play 1 land, but our version here plays 5 lands, and we use effects like Reclaim the Wastes, Search your library for a land card, Caravan Vigil is similar, Rampant Growth. Basically what we want to do is search for all 5 of our lands, get them out of our library, and then we cast Balustrade Spy and put our entire library into our graveyard. Okay, so phase 1 is to get all 5 lands out of our library. Phase 2 is to play Balustrade Spy, put our entire graveyard into our library. Then from there, we flashback this spell, Morgue Theft. It's a sorcery that says return target creature from your graveyard to your hand, and it has a flashback cost of 5. So we pay the 5 mana, we flash it back, we then return this creature from our graveyard to our hand, Anarchist. It's 5 mana for a 2/2. It says when it enters the battlefield, return target sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. So then with this in our hand, we exile one of these from our graveyard. It's this newish creature called Halo Scarab, 2 for a 2/1. But it says pay 2 mana, exile a Halo Scarab from your graveyard, create a treasure token. So we pay the 2, we exile this from our graveyard, we create a treasure token, we sack the treasure token for red, we cast Anarchist, Anarchist enters the battlefield, then we return this sorcery to our hand, Haunting Misery. It's 3 mana, it says exile X creature cards from your graveyard, Haunting Misery deals X damage to target player. So with this, we exile all of the creatures in our graveyard, which should be over 20 creatures, and then we deal 20 plus damage to our opponent's face. But now the question is, how do we get all the mana to be able to play all of these things? And the answer is Songs of the Damned. 1 black for an instant. It says add 1 black for each creature card in your graveyard. So once we've played Balustrade Spy and dumped our entire library into our graveyard, we then play Songs of the Damned, adding 20 plus mana, and that's the mana we use to flashback Morgue Theft, to exile Halo Scarab, to then cast Anarchist, and then finally cast Haunting Misery for lethal. So I'll quickly go over all of the cards in the deck. So we only have 5 lands. Then I'll start with the effects we use to search for lands. So first up, one of the best ones is Land Grant, very interesting card. It's 2 mana, it says search your library for a forest and put it into your hand. But it says if you have no land cards in your hand, you may reveal your hand instead of paying Land Grant's mana cost. So even if we have 0 lands in our hand, if we have Land Grant, we can cast Land Grant for free and search for a land. Okay, so Caravan Vigil, very similar, 1 green for a sorcery, search your library for a basic land, put it into your hand, and you can put that land onto the battlefield if a creature died this turn. Reclaim the Wastes, 1 green for a sorcery, search your library for a basic land, put it into your hand, kick a cost of 3. If you kicked it, you can search for 2 basic lands. Then we have Rampant Growth, 2 mana for a sorcery, search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, so that's also a bit of ramp. Then very similar, we have Sakura Tribe Elder, 2 for a 1/1, sacrifice the Elder, search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped. So this searches for a land, it's also a ramp, and it can also be a chump blocker. Then next up we have Sylvan Ranger, 2 mana for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land, put it into your hand. Okay, similar, we have Borderland Ranger, 3 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land and put it into your hand. Then Search for Tomorrow, 3 mana, search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield. But we can also pay 1 mana and suspend this with 2 counters. Okay, then Balustrade Spy, of course. And then as another way of... So then we have 4 copies of Dimir House Guard as a way of tutoring for our Balustrade Spy. So the House Guard is 4 mana for a 2/3 with Fear, but it has Transmute for a cost of 3. So if you pay 3, you can discard this card and search your library for a card with So if you pay 3, you can discard this card and search your library for a card with mana value 4 and put it into your hand. So this we can use to search for Balustrade Spy. So then just for some cycling, we have Street Wraith, and we have Horror of the Broken Lands. It's 5 mana for a 4/4, but it also has cycling for a cost of 1 black. So basically, in order to win, or at least in order to pull off our combo, we need first to have every land out of our graveyard. Then secondly, we need to have Balustrade Spy in our hand, alongside either Songs of the Damned or Conjurer's Bauble. So Conjurer's Bauble is interesting. It's 1 mana for an artifact. It says tap, sacrifice Conjurer's Bauble, put up to 1 target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library, then draw a card. So what we can do is, if we don't have Songs of the Damned in our hand, we can still win as long as we have Balustrade Spy and Conjurer's Bauble, because we play the Conjurer's Bauble, then we play Balustrade Spy, put our whole library into our graveyard. Then we sacrifice the Conjurer's Bauble, choosing to put Songs of the Damned from our graveyard on the bottom of our library. But since we have no library, the bottom of our library is the same as the top of our library. So Conjurer's Bauble will put Songs of the Damned on top of our library and then draw us a card, which draws us the Song of the Damned. So basically it's a bit of redundancy. So the combo is Balustrade Spy plus either Songs of the Damned or Conjurer's Bauble. So yeah, that's the deck. Very memey and janky and crazy. I would say it is actually fairly consistent. We have so many ways of searching for the cards we need that we can eventually piece together the combo. But from testing so far, I found it to be a little bit slow. So it needs some tweaks. Maybe I should have some more disruption or removal in the main board. But the thing is, you also want to have a high number of creatures in the deck. So we'll need to have creatures that maybe have alternate uses as removal or discard. So if you have suggestions of creatures that would serve that purpose, please let me know. So yeah, I'd say the main problem with this deck is that right now it feels just a little bit too slow. And also we can get wrecked by just a simple counterspell. But luckily we do have tons of creatures, so worst case scenario we can just switch to beatdown mode, which is not very strong, but at least it's an alternative. So yeah, that is the deck. A pretty random Pauper combo deck. Maybe things like Simian Spirit Guide could also fit in here, but yeah, that kind of makes it more like the one land spy versions, which just seem way more luck based and far less consistent than this version. Let me know your thoughts, or maybe if you have ideas for how the deck could be improved or tweaked, please let me know. As always, thanks for watching this deck tech, and I will see you next time.